Let us now discuss triple burner 4, Yang pool, a source yuan point. Location on the dorsum of the wrist, above the wrist joint space, or the dorsal wrist crease. In the gap between the tendons of the extensor digitorum on the ulnar aspect and the extensor digiti minimi muscles on the radial aspect. How to find triple burner 4? As the location of the dorsal wrist crease varies, the wrist joint space should be used for orientation instead. By moving the patient's wrist in a relaxed way, the joint space becomes well-defined. Triple burner 4 is located slightly laterally to the midpoint of the joint space in the depression between the tendons of the extensor digiti minimi muscle, continuing to the little finger on its radial aspect, and the tendon of the extensor digitorum muscle on its ulnar aspect. The tendons of the extensor digitorum muscle will become more pronounced by moving the three middle fingers. Located on the same level but radial to the tendons of the extensor digitorum muscle is EXUE3, which is an extra point. Needling of triple burner 4. 0.3 to 0.5 zone vertically or slightly obliquely in a proximal direction or transversely subcutaneously deep to the tendons towards the radial aspect of the wrist. Actions or indications: clears heat, opens the channel, relaxes the tendons. In Japanese acupuncture tradition, triple burner 4 in its function as yuan source point is used for deficiency syndromes. Special feature, yuan source point. Triple burner 4 has many different functions. Firstly, it relaxes sinews and removes obstructions from the channel, which means that it can be used to treat painful obstruction syndrome of arm and shoulder. It is also very effective for headaches of the occiput deriving from exterior invasion of wind. The triple burner, and particularly the lower burner, is in charge of transformation of fluids, and this point can stimulate this function whenever fluids are not being transformed properly and dampness accumulates in the lower burner. Triple burner 4 is particularly effective in this connection, combined with bladder 64. The combination of these 2 points stimulates transformation and excretion of fluids in the lower burner very effectively. So remember the combination, TB4 plus bladder 64. The word pool in this point's name confirms its effect on body fluids. Triple burner 4 regulates the function of the stomach and tonifies the stomach, especially in conjunction with stomach 42. The combination, stomach 42 plus TB4, is very effective in tonifying stomach and spleen and giving energy if the person is very tired. These points are in a relationship with the original chi. In particular, according to the classic of difficulties, original chi arises between the kidneys and spreads to the internal organs via the triple burner, so that the triple burner is like the ambassador or intermediary for the original chi. This point is therefore not just a source point, but the source point of the triple burner, which is the intermediary for the original chi. Triple burner 4 can thus be used to tonify original chi in all chronic diseases when the kidneys have become deficient and the person's energy is greatly weakened. Because of its connection with original chi, triple burner 4 is also connected with the penetrating and directing vessels and can be used to regulate their chi and blood. It is therefore used in irregular or painful periods and amenorrhea. These last two functions are derived from the Japanese tradition of acupuncture, as Chinese texts do not make any mention of a connection between TB4 and the original chi and the penetrating and directing vessels. Triple burner 64 regulates the water passages of the lower burner when used in conjunction with triple burner 4. So to summarize, the functions of TB4 are as follows. Removes obstructions from the channel, so very effective for wrist pain, neck ache, pain in the shoulder and arm, redness and swelling of the wrist. Benefits the ears, so for tinnitus, deafness, and earache. Regulates lesser yang, febrile disease, alternation of feeling of cold and feeling of heat, and malaria. Promotes fluids transformation, so like swelling of the legs, urinary difficulty, urinary retention, and edema of the legs. Benefits original qi, so good for tiredness, poor appetite, backache, weak knees. Tonifies penetrating and directing vessels for irregular periods and amenorrhea. The classic of difficulties says, the Sanjiao is the envoy of the original qi. The places where the original qi resides are known as the Yuan-Source points. This passage therefore implies both that the original qi resides at the Yuan-Source points and that the Sanjiao is a transmitter of the original qi. As the Yuan-Source point of the Sanjiao channel, therefore, there is every reason to expect that SJ4 would be an important point to strengthen the original qi in the treatment of deficiency diseases. And triple burner 4 is used for exactly this purpose in the Japanese tradition of acupuncture. It has also been suggested that SJ4 is effective to regulate the conception and penetrating vessels in the treatment of disordered menstruation. Examining the classical Chinese records on the use of SJ4, the following observations may be made. It appears in a very few traditional combinations. There are very few indications or combinations reflecting its effectiveness in tonifying deficiency, and it has no gynecological indications. It is interesting to note also that SJ6 rather than SJ4 is indicated for blockage of the conception vessel in women. In clinical practice, SJ4 is principally used for local disorders of wrist joint, including redness, swelling, weakness, and pain. In learning the names of the points of the yang channels at the wrist, it is helpful to remember their similarity. Like for LI5, Yang Stream, SI5, Yang Valley, and SJ4, Yang Pool. Thank you very much for your attention.